Welcome, Seeker. I'm glad you're here. We're about to embark on a journey, a deep dive inward. Think of this as a map, and us as fellow travelers, exploring that ancient, winding path to becoming whole.
So let's just jump right into the deep end, shall we? I want you to really let this question land. Think about the person you've built, all the rules, the morals, the reputation you work so hard to maintain. What if that entire structure, that fortress you call you, isn't a sanctuary at all? What if it's actually a prison, a beautiful, gilded cage keeping you from who you really are?
To even begin to answer that, we're going to follow a four-stage process. And this isn't just some checklist. Think of it as an alchemical recipe, a structured descent designed to transform the hidden, heavy parts of ourselves into something truly golden. Our journey starts in a place called the Museum of Pride.
All right, Act 1, the Museum of Pride. Now here's the thing that's so interesting. This journey doesn't start in some dark, spooky cavern. No, it starts in the light. A very specific kind of rigid, performative light. It starts with life inside that very gilded cage we were just talking about.
This starting point is what our source material calls the architecture of pride, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a psychological fortress we build around ourselves brick by brick, with rules, dogmas, and what society tells us is good. It feels solid, it feels safe, but its real job, to keep out the messy, chaotic, beautiful pulse of life and to keep the messiest parts of ourselves locked away.
And the master builder of this fortress? Well, that's an archetype called Wotan the Architect. You can think of him as the part of us and the part of our culture that is absolutely terrified of the unknown. He craves order, certainty, and he will pave over any scary, empty space with laws and doctrines.
And check out how he does it. He uses this structural glue of old laws and traditions to create what feels like a sanctuary. But here's the catch. It's actually a museum for performative souls. We become exhibits, polished and perfect and completely static. And in that state, there's no room for a genuine, messy, truly holy encounter with reality.
So in this museum, we all end up wearing the same thing, the golden mask. It's this beautiful, shimmering performance of being totally in control, totally rational, what the Greeks called Apollonian order. But its real job, its only job, is to hide our own suffering, to hide the chaotic abyss that we all feel deep down, to hide the one figure we're most afraid of, the ugliest man. Remember that name. We're going to meet him later. Okay, on to Act 2, the mercy of grit. Because let's be real, no mask, no matter how golden, can hold up forever. Eventually, something comes along to introduce a little bit of chaos, a necessary crack in that perfect facade. And that something is personified here as Mephistopheles the Negatator. Now, don't think of him as some red-caped devil. He's not an enemy to be defeated. He's a catalyst. He's that little voice of doubt, the irritant, the one who comes along and questions everything you thought was so certain.
I mean, just look at this metaphor. He's the stinging grit in the oyster of your soul. And you know the deal with oysters, right? No grit, no pearl. It's that friction, that ignoble knowledge, all the stuff you'd rather not know about yourself that starts to melt away your vanity. It's what makes you realize there's something else moving around down there in the dark. And this stage, it is absolutely mandatory for any real change to happen.
But this brings us to a really critical, really dangerous point. What happens when the mask cracks, when the rules get broken, but you're not strong enough to see the journey through? This is where we meet a figure that I think a lot of us today are deeply uncomfortable with.
Meet the pale criminal. This is the archetype of a very modern kind of failure. See, he has the guts to break society's rules, but he completely lacks the courage to face his own nature. He can't integrate his shadow, so he ends up becoming this horrified spectator to his own actions. We reject this guy, we recoil from him, because he shows us something terrifying, that breaking a rule isn't the point. The point is whether or not you can own the part of you that broke it.
And this chart just lays the difference out perfectly. The true architect of meaning says a holy yea to all of their nature, good and bad. The pale criminal, he's a bridge that broke. The architect owns their actions, the scarlet fruit. The criminal makes excuses with poor reason. The real test isn't breaking the law, it's what you become in the silence afterward. Do you become the light that consumes and integrates the deed, or just a pale, shivering shadow of it?
This brings us to the deepest, most intense part of the descent. Act 3, the Tribunal of Ash. This is the trial by fire. This is where everything that isn't truly you gets burned to the ground.
Okay, there's no escaping it now. The journey takes you right into the center of your own wound, that source of all the pain and suffering that the golden mask was built to hide in the first place.
So what's in there? Not some external place of damnation. What you find are the 10,000 hells that you, yourself, have built. These hells are made of every truth you didn't speak, every time you chose safety over courage, every single piece of your unlived life staring back at you.
And in this place, a brutal kind of honesty takes over. It's called the Blight of Revelation. It strips away everything. Your job title, your reputation, your degrees, your money, all the armor is gone. And suddenly, every single person's true nature is completely readable. Most terrifyingly of all, your own.
You're in the Valley of Shadows, and there is nowhere left to hide. There's no clever argument, no intellectual position, no escape hatch that gets you outside the mirror. You are finally, inescapably face to face with that ugliest man you've been running from your entire life.
But, and this is the most important part, if you can endure it, if you can just stand there in that mirror without flinching, you arrive at the final act, the architect's synthesis. This is where all that pressure doesn't crush you, it integrates you.
Under that unbearable weight of total self-confrontation, the last little pieces of the golden mask and all the other personas you've been hiding behind, they finally crack.
And here is the great secret of this entire journey. The cracking isn't a failure. It isn't a tragedy. It is a breakthrough. It is the necessary wound. It's the only opening through which the emerald light of reality can finally pour in and make you whole. This moment is called the mystical marriage. It's pure alchemy. It's where you unite the structured, orderly, golden part of yourself with your chaotic, shadowy, wild depths. You stop fighting the ugliest man and you invite him to dinner. And when you do that, all that stinging grit from your past, all the failures, the shame, it gets refined into a pearl of revelation. You become an architect of meaning.
And the state you finally achieve is called amor fati, the love of one's fate. It's the power to look at your entire life, the beautiful and the grotesque, and to scream a joyful, holy yeah to all of it. This is how wild lilies, symbols of unexpected grace, can finally bloom in the mud of your own story.
So, we end here, in the lit room of revelation. The journey is complete. The cage is gone. The masks are off. And the final, most important question is turned back to you. Now that you have a life that can no longer hide, what will you build?